It's pretty cool. It's because of great support that this series exists. One is the Friends of the Westfield Library and the staff at the Westfield Library. They all make it happen. The Glasser Family Foundation is the financial support, and then this committee, which meets and talks and decides and reaches out and puts together the postcards you got or whatever. So there's a lot of moving parts to this and a lot of people to thank. So now let's get on with why we're here. So Rebecca grew up in Westfield, and like so many in town, she lived on a terrific street where the neighborhood kids all played together. Her street, however, was a cul-de-sac, and so that made it particularly safe. And the kids in the neighborhood put on their rollerblades and played street hockey. One of the neighborhood kids had a birthday party, and he or she decided to have it at Warrenecco Ice Rink. Rebecca got on ice skates, and she loved it. So I'm going to fast forward to last month when Rebecca was named the head women's ice hockey coach at Newman University. So you all clapped and you get that being a head coach at a college is amazing. And this particular school, and I wrote it down, but I can't read it. What
Newman
conference?
University.
Yeah, but what's the conference? I looked it up.
Middle Atlantic Conference.
Okay, so, pretty cool. So, here to present Leaving Home to Chase the Game and Coming Back to Change It, please welcome Rebecca Morse.
Thank you very much. Welcome. If you're having any trouble hearing me, just raise your hand, and I'll try to increase the volume. I'm Rebecca Morse. My hockey nickname, I would be remiss if I didn't share it. My hockey nickname in the hockey world, I've gone by Moose, and that's just from my last name. I had a teammate when I was playing 12U hockey who had a speech impediment, and she struggled to pronounce her R's a little bit, so Morse sounded like Moose, and everyone just started calling me that. It stuck through college, through pro. So I go by Coach Rebecca, Coach Morse, Moose, all of it. Okay, so first I'll go over the agenda for my talk. So I'll start with, I'll give you a pulse on the current state of women's professional hockey and Olympic hockey, because we're in an Olympic year. Then I'll share my specific experiences, growing up in Westfield, discovering hockey, discovering myself, my youth career basically to the college level. And lastly, we'll explore the growth of the game, and through my lens really, becoming a coach while in college, that evolution, the first teams I coached, predecessor women's pro league that I played in, my involvement being a pioneer, ups and downs, the opportunities and challenges that I and my teammates encountered, include successes, adversity, and really the overlap with me getting into coaching, administration, hockey operations, and player development full-time, the overlap between that and my professional career. Women's professional and Olympic hockey. The current league, the Professional Women's Hockey League, is called the Professional Women's Hockey League, PWHL. It launched in 2024 with 6 teams, and these are the 6 teams. In order, from left to right, we have the Boston Fleet, Minnesota Frost, Montreal Victoire, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, and Toronto Scepters. And although the league launched in 2024, teams in U.S. and Canada, was officially announced coming into fruition in June of 2023. And before that, there's a lot of history before that, but there are really 2 competing paths for professional women's hockey. There was the PHF, or NWHL. It was renamed from the NWHL to the PHF. And that's more of a league model. And then there was Another fun acronym, PWHPA, which is more of a player-led movement. They didn't have a league model. They went to neutral sites and played games. And the PHF was essentially purchased and shut down. The assets were acquired by a group led by major investors. Two of those names are Mark Walter and Billie Jean King. And really that was part of a plan. Mark Walter, a lot of people know that name, owner of the LA Dodgers, among other teams as well. And part of that plan to really consolidate the two leagues was to unify the sport. It wasn't quite a merger, and I think it's important to share that. But obviously, the league has done great things. Wasn't really a merger in terms of like continuing the franchises, the players and the staff. There was some carryover for the players and staff, but the franchises were all done, all finished. And now with one single entity, that really has allowed them to maximize the opportunity, financially, resources, and just negate other competition, because there is a lot for a while in the women's hockey space. And so if we look at that early milestone there, that happened in April 2024, I believe, 21,000+ fans at a single game. And that was actually up north in Canada at the Bell Centre in Montreal. That's where the Canadians play. And it was Montreal versus Toronto. And really, the mission, elevating women's hockey through visibility and growth, that's pretty much been a constant through the various leagues, professional leagues that have existed. Madison Square Garden. So this is very, very recent. April 4th, 2026. So a couple months ago here, there was a New York Sirens home game, and they ended up winning 2-1 in a shootout, which made for even more excitement. But the big takeaway was the record-breaking crowd, 18,006 fans. That's the largest. They set a record for the U.S. And one of the largest crowds still in the sports history anywhere. And that really marked a shift from women's hockey being a niche interest to a mainstream having mainstream demand for it. And if you take a look at the pictures here, I took these photos. Actually, I didn't take all of them because I'm in a couple of them. They're all were taken on my phone. Purple, it's a color for the league, their primary color, their logo, and obviously that just shows the seats really are packed and the fans are engaged and excited. That's towards the end of the game, I believe. And right here, this is me and my wife, Tara, who's here in the front. We went to, thank you. I'll share more about her later, but we were invited. It wasn't even me, actually. She was invited to a reception before the game. So I got to tag along as the +1, and we have an ice sculpture right here of the PWHL logo, which we thought was pretty cool. I understand those are pretty expensive. And then on the right, one of my heroes, Robin Roberts, in the middle. You might know her. She's a TV broadcaster. She was previously on ESPN, so a sportscaster. Now on Good Morning America, and she was a college basketball player. So big into sports, and I think got to talk to her for a little bit. She mentioned that Billie Jean King personally invited her, which was pretty cool. But Billie and her wife, Alana Kloss, who are both behind the league, spoke at the reception. So that was pretty cool to. I remember learning about Billie Jean King in high school when I took a American sport class, and it was pretty cool to listen to her live. League expansion and momentum. So this past season, 2025-26, the league expanded by 2 teams. You'll see them below here. Seattle Torrent and Vancouver Golden Eyes. And there's further expansion that's already been recently announced, very recently announced actually. 4 more teams. We have Detroit, San Jose, Vegas, and Hamilton, which is in Ontario, not too far from Toronto. Obviously, hockey is pretty big up there. And going from, it's pretty quick, right? Because the league hasn't existed for a long time. Going from 6 teams to 8 this past season. With 4 more, it'll be up to 12. And what was sort of leading up to this, and it'll be interesting to see how the league continues, is they called it a takeover tour, and this sort of goes back to the PWHPA and their model of neutral site games. But really the concept is barnstorming a neutral site game series. Regular season games are played in cities where there isn't a PWHL team. And some of those have been like Seattle and Vancouver before we had teams there. And Denver, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Quebec City, so all over North America. And really the idea behind this, I understand, is to test the expansion markets and to grow the fan base in those specific markets. So again, now 12 teams, and that really reflects the rising investment and league stability with that growth in a short period of time. And specifically growth across US and Canadian markets. There was an even distribution previously. Now it's a little bit more heavily weighted toward the US. And something I forgot to mention earlier regarding salaries, because that's news as well. All the players' salaries, there's full transparency. Those are posted online. So you can actually just go look them up after this. And that's a big topic because when I was playing professionally, most of myself and most of my teammates had a full-time job. So it really brings up the question, what are the salaries looking like? What's the discrepancy? As an athlete, can I fully devote myself to my sport and give everything to that? Or do I need a second job to make ends meet and pay the bills? I think the lowest salary is around $37,000, and the highest is Emily Clark, and that's $126,000. There are a lot of players somewhere in between there, some on the lower end, some on the higher end. But that's what we're working with right now in terms of salaries. All right. Obviously, there was just an Olympics this past February in Milan, and Team USA, women's team, really had a dominant performance. I think we all know the result and the success, for our country. But women's won a gold medal, and the final game was a 2-1 overtime win against Canada. Just some stats there: plus 33 goal differential. 33 goals, and then five shutouts. That means no goals were scored against in 5 games, which is pretty incredible for the tournament. Tournament MVP was Caroline Harvey, a player that I've really enjoyed watching, who just graduated from Wisconsin and will be entering the league, I imagine. But there's never, despite all the success, there's never a guarantee that they're gonna win. It's often the U.S. and Canada in the end, but the U.S. has been heartbroken in the past. Canada has been heartbroken in the past. So it's always the question of, are they going to be in that game? Who's going to be in that game, and who's going to be the winner? It's probably going to be a close game. And we look over at the other side, cultural relevance and visibility. Like as I mentioned, it's almost always a U.S.-Canada final for final matchup. Something that's interesting is now fans can watch year-round. A lot of those players, almost all of them, if weren't in college, they're playing professional hockey in the PWHL. So previously, people might only pay attention to women's hockey during an Olympic year, and there is often a bump, but just way more accessible now, year-round. And women's sports have really been getting more attention. If you think about like the WNBA, women's college basketball, the NWSL, and I remember when I was playing professionally, I really looked to those leagues as a model for us and what we could aspire to be. So they're a little bit further along. And obviously that far picture from SNL, there's obviously a lot of obviously pop culture crossover and politics as well. I won't get too much into that. But pretty cool that that's Megan Keller and Hillary Knight on the right. And that's the actor in the middle, Connor Story, who's in the show. And pretty cool that they got to go on SNL and get their moment, which was really important for this sport. But really, this is expanding the conversation around women's hockey. And something that's important to note, I feel it's probably fitting here. My wife and I, we met playing professionally, and for those who haven't watched Heated Rivalry or read the book, I know it was big, got a lot of attention, but there are a lot of examples. The irony is that, you know, there hasn't been a player who's out of the closet, you know, in men's professional hockey, and or in the NHL at least. And there are a ton in women's professional hockey and women's sports. You know, myself being one of them, we were teammates. We met playing, so pretty cool. Girls and women's hockey is on the rise. Definitely is. We talked about the spike you see, the bump you see in an Olympic year. We're looking at female registrations nearing 100,000, which is pretty cool. So that's within USA Hockey, which is the governing body for hockey in this country, and that's made up of 12 districts geographically throughout the country. We are the Atlantic District, that's New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, and Delaware. There's some districts that are really just states because they have so many people playing hockey that they're just their own districts. Those are probably the ones you'd think if you're somewhat familiar with hockey. Minnesota, Michigan, Massachusetts, and New York. They each have their own district. And this USA Hockey covers not just the youth level, but adult hockey, grassroots, learn to play programs, all of that. Something that's pretty interesting that I didn't even realize before doing this presentation or working on it was that there are 200 plus colleges and universities that now offer women's hockey, which is pretty cool. I should know that stat now. I'm glad I do. But this goes to show that the visibility really inspires the next generation, and kind of the concept of if you can see it, you can be it. And that helps build a pipeline, for youth in the grassroots level. There's a pipeline, up to the pro level, and that funnel is only getting bigger, right? Starting at the top with learn to play programs, introductory programs, which is pretty cool. There didn't used to be, I'll get into my story a little bit later, but there didn't used to be really much girls high school hockey in this state. And now obviously Westfield has a team. Pretty quickly they had enough interest for 2 teams, which is awesome, but that wasn't a reality for me growing up in this town. And it's important to mention too, like I didn't really consider coaching an option, a career option. And I had plenty examples throughout my playing career, but this growth too, and then the pipeline, it doesn't only mean like future pro Division I college players, because the percentage of players that make it to that level is still going to be so small, even though there's a lot more opportunities. Now there's other careers within hockey, right? Coaching, officiating, business side, media. And I've seen a lot of my teammates go into those different avenues, which is pretty cool. Okay, we'll get to my experience. Photo is a little bit grainy, but that's my cul-de-sac, called my cul-de-sac. It's no longer mine, and actually it never really was mine. We all shared it, that's for sure. But lots of sports were played here. I was born in Manhattan, and my parents moved to Westfield in 1994. They wanted to raise me and my brother, in a suburban town, and my aunt, who's actually here, my aunt and uncle, my aunt and my mom are very close, and they ended up, she was moving to Westfield, so my family kind of followed her, but I also have to mention, I know that my parents searched in a few different towns and had some options, but I just have so much gratitude that they chose this house. I know you can't see it, but this is the important part, right? Lots of sports being played here. Every sport you can think of. We played baseball, football, soccer, on the pavement sometimes. Little extra challenge. But I played pretty much every sport, just pick up for fun. But wheeled sports, I really took a liking to them. So not just, rollerblading, but biking. I skateboarded when I was younger. I still remember my first big purchase as a kid with my own money was a Razor scooter. So it was cool because it's pretty much shaped like a hockey rink or close enough. And, my dad bought us real regulation nets. And we would bring both of them out sometimes and actually play a pickup game. One of them would stay in our basement too, which is pretty cool. But for a kid growing up in the 90s in New Jersey, I was just so privileged because, my role models to look to, really, my first role models were the Devils. The guys on the Devils, that's who I wanted to be like. And, they had 3 Stanley Cups, 95, 2000, and 2003. So it's pretty cool to be a fan during that time. And to get autographs, my brother played at the rink that they practiced at. So we would stay after and get autographs all the time. Discovering hockey. That's actually the top of the stairs to my basement. But my mom wasn't always a fan of me rollerblading in the house, but I didn't just do it at this age. Those are the ones that I think you can keep your shoes on and kind of just strap them on. But I would, I'd come in for lunch or for a sip of water with my regular rollerblades too, like the real hockey ones. Lots of memories doing that. But as Barb mentioned, my real first experience with ice hockey was getting invited to a neighbor's birthday party that was at Warrenco, a public skating session. And I fell in love with it. I was handed a pair of figure skates from another neighbor, so that's what I wore first, like many girls, women, girls at the time who grew up, at that time, and sometimes still now too, but that changed pretty quickly. If you jump down here to South Mountain Arena, it's now called Essex County Cody Arena. That is where the Devils used to practice, where my brother played, but we took private skating lessons there, which was pretty cool. That nothing but skating. It was just skates and maybe gloves. I don't even know if we were wearing a helmet, but not full equipment yet. And I remember learning how to stop there, and that's probably one of the hardest things. Definitely one of the first hardest things that you encounter in hockey. But in addition to private skating lessons, my dad signed us up for a Learn to Play program, and that's just introductory basic skills. And from there, that's when I got my first full set of equipment. And from there, I moved on to a house league program, which is actual competition, practices, and games, but you're not traveling. It's all local in your rink. And if you go over to the far side, some of my earliest experiences, I remember trying out for the team that my brother played for. He was already there, so I was like, all right, I got a good shot. He's already, he's a goalie. He's already on the team. But I was cut from the team. I think that was 10 and under. It was a youth club. At the time, and kind of still, that meant mostly boys. I think there was maybe one other girl there, and she was not even my age, maybe a year or two younger. But I learned pretty young, and I think it was 10 years old. I didn't feel like hockey was for me because of that experience. So I don't think I even started playing right away, joining another team right away after that. Soccer was really my main sport, and I was pretty good at it. I remember I got into that a little bit late and was, started on the C team for Westfield soccer, and then later on, there was a tournament. I still remember there was a tournament, and I was asked to play with the A team because they didn't have enough players. And I'm like, whoa, I'm skipping from C to A? What is going on? I was nervous. But it was where I belonged. I think we were just late to sign up for tryouts or something. But then I moved on to the A team. Then I'm like, oh, okay, they think I'm good, so let me keep doing this. I want to keep, soccer's still my number one. But eventually I told my dad, I want to play hockey. Please, can you please find a team? And he did. And I was, I think, 11, playing for a 19 and under team. For my first hockey team. They're called the Quarry Cats. I actually played for them. My wife and I did this year. Their women's team, which was pretty cool. And actually one of the same teammates I had on that team was played on this team we played on this year, the women's team. But from there, I think I spent a year or two there, and some of the stronger players were moving over to another organization, the New Jersey Colonials. They had Tier 1 hockey, and that was a higher level. So I went over there, kind of followed some of my teammates along, and I was that next year playing 12U hockey, 12 and under. So going from 19 under to 12 and under, but more competitive. I would say there was more depth on the roster maybe. And from there, that was my last year of 12U. So from there, the next season I played, I made the 14 and under team, and both years with the Colonials, I only played for them for 2 years. I had the opportunity. My team had the opportunity to go to nationals. And we won third place both years, actually. So that was pretty cool, and not something that every youth hockey player gets to experience. Most don't, quite honestly. So I really caught the bug. Discovering myself, I mentioned some of this, but really my focus started to shift from soccer to hockey because for many reasons. My team was having a lot of success. I was having success. A lot of my teammates were ambitious. They were like, I'm going to prep school. I'm going to play at this level next year. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I had some teammates at Morristown Beard, so I shadowed them there and was maybe going to consider that option. But hockey, it's no secret. It's a commitment. There's a lot of travel. It's expensive, and all that investment really for my parents, for my family. But the long car rides, the time in the hotel with your teammates, playing mini sticks. I really, really realized that that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to make my focus. National Sports Academy. So this is my high school. How did I get there? I went there all 4 years. How did I get there? So my 8th grade year, I was really after 8th grade or the spring, I think I joined the Westfield High School boys team. They played in a spring league at Union Sports Arena. So that was my first time checking. And playing body checking. I had never done that before because I played girls travel hockey, and that isn't part of girls travel hockey. But as I mentioned, some of my teammates went to Morristown Beard. Some were considering going far, out of New Jersey to a prep or boarding school. So my dad signed me up for a showcase, a pre-prep showcase. It's still happening, actually. It's still going on, that event, annually. But basically, you go, you're put on a team, you play games. And the moment that stands out to me the most was the prep school fair, kind of like a college fair, a career fair afterward. And I think everyone was already gone. and we were talking with the coach at National Sports Academy, NSA, for probably an hour. And he really liked me, really liked the way I played. And I guess I made a good impression, and he wanted me to come to the school right away. This was in August. This is in August, this event, and we were on our way. The showcase was in New Hampshire, and we were on our way up to Maine. We did that every year to visit my aunt who used to live there, my aunt and uncle, different aunt and uncle. But that trip was largely spent trying to figure out what I should do, because I knew my plan was to play hockey and soccer for Westfield High School, obviously get a great education in Westfield. It's part of the reason people move to this town, right, for the school system. But I chose a different path, and it was the right one for me. I also took a huge risk in visiting the school, in not visiting the school. I didn't see it before I committed. So I'm showing up there in August because obviously I decided to go. I'm showing up there in September after really making this decision in August. So it's a huge risk, and as you can see, the school is pretty underwhelming. I don't know if any of you have seen beautiful New England prep schools. There's a lot of money put into them. Not this place. The money went into, I would say, our travel, and I'll get into that. I did some pretty cool things, you'll see. But It's one building. It's one building. They actually, so this is the main building. Like I had classes here. My Spanish class was down here. Some physics, Spanish. Those are the dorms. The cafeteria is in the middle. There's a foyer. But in addition to this, there was a mountain house that was kind of around the corner. And then we had some skiers that came to the school part-time, just in the winter, and they would live at a separate place, some of them. But really, Lake Placid, it's known obviously for the Olympics. They've hosted multiple Olympics there, but the 1980 Miracle on Ice. So that's really what helped make my decision. We had already traveled there. My brother played in a tournament there, the Can-Am tournament, and we did all the touristy things, skied, or I think snowboarded, white face. And I fell in love with it, skating on the oval. I just loved the village. So I didn't really need to visit the school in order to be sold. So the other aspect of it is it was pretty much a school. I say was because it no longer exists, unfortunately. It's now a hotel. Lake Placid needed more hotels. But it's really like there's really an Olympic legacy atmosphere, and that's not just because the Olympics were there, but these were some of my classmates on the top. Actually, these two. And that's a ski jumper, Nick Alexander, and that's Summer Brickner, luge. So pretty unique sports. But I went to school with those two, and then obviously on the bottom there's the rank and the 1980 team. But this school was really perfect for me. It ended up being a perfect fit. Not only were the facilities great, to skate on that ice, there's so much history, and thinking about school for a second, it was really, academically, it was really flexible. The teachers were, and that's something that worked for a competitive athlete. And I would have been traveling and missing a lot of school had I stayed here. So that worked for me. And there's just this feeling around you that everyone's pushing to reach their goals, whether that's college or pro, Olympics, whatever. But all the students were winter athletes at NSA. School and village pride. So on the left here, I think it's my freshman team picture. Right there. And behind us is Mirror Lake. It's named for obvious reasons. You can see the reflection in the picture, and it's not even that good of a picture in terms of quality. But really, I didn't even see that, and I was still sold. But right next to the school, the lake. Some of the dorms even had a view of the lake, which was pretty cool. I got a couple of those, a couple of years. But we used the lake year-round, so it was still warm enough. We'd swim in the fall, we'd swim in the spring. It was not, the water really wasn't warm enough, but we did it anyway. Fishing, it's paved and there's a sidewalk all the way around the lake, so we would run around the lake as training. When it would freeze, we would play pond hockey on it, which was awesome. And then we had Winter Carnival. Our field day was called Winter Carnival, and that was done on the ice, on the lake. And then on the far side, it's just an event we did every year. So you go back to the last slide, the last bullet, the community and service aspect. That really was a big part of my high school experience. We had a community service requirement. I got an award for winning it one year, and I think that had more to do with having the most hours, and I think that had more to do with trying to beat my teammate out than anything else. But no matter the reason, it's for a good cause. They have the Lake Placid Half Marathon every year, and our team would hand out water. So we're sitting around for a little bit. We were standing around and got creative with, organizing them in the shape of NSA, showing our school pride. Preseason training. This is still NSA. This is a big part of my life. So that's me there running up a sand hill, and I include, you're like, why would I include this? It's because I enjoyed it. I loved our preseason training. Every year, right when we got to school, that first month, because we usually play our first weekend, the last weekend in September up in Canada. So we'd be training all before that, off the ice, and we really use, instead of going in the gym all the time, we would actually mostly train outside in the fall. So one of my teammates, actually the teammate on the in front of me there on the right, her father, worked locally for the Department of Public Works, so he got us access to this sand hill, and we did sprints up the sand hill, which were pretty cool. And I love that. We did this every year. And on the far right, that's the Ausable River, and we would run through it every year. And it wasn't just walking, it was running through it. And my competitiveness showing again, I think that was my senior year, so I was definitely a leader on my team, and we were at the front, trying to lead the pack and have our teammates keep up with us, setting the pace. And that teammate, we actually would go on to play in college together. So we played together for 8 years straight. All right, running up the Olympic ski jumps. I really needed to include 3 pictures to do it justice. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but these are stairs here that go along before you even get to the jumps. And you can see through them here, right? You could see through them. So that's scary with the incline and when you're running up them. We weren't just walking up them. At the top you see the ski jump. You can kind of see a little bit of the Olympic rings right there. That's the end of the jump where they go off from. We did this every year too. My coach, I guess, had a good relationship with the Olympic Regional Development Authority, ORDA, so we got to do a lot of cool stuff, and this would never, I talked to my coach, I talked to him and we catch up. I always make it a point to thank him again and again for that experience, and really my parents for allowing me to go to school, but he gave us some pretty cool experiences, and he's always like, this would never be allowed now, which is definitely true. Definitely true. Such a huge liability. Experiences on the road. So we traveled a lot, almost every weekend from September through March, sometimes all the way up to April. One of those trips was a tournament in Calgary, and we went to Banff, and it was beautiful. This is something that I never would have experienced. I haven't been back. Had I not gone to NSA, and I just remember loving it and being in awe. We took a gondola up to the top of a mountain, and just beautiful view of the mountain ranges. And we also went to hot springs in Banff, which was very cool and relaxing, very relaxing. They're natural. On the far right, we have Niagara Falls. I actually have been there several times. Canadian side is definitely better, but we stopped on the way to a tournament, and we didn't just kind of go through, but we actually stayed, spent some time in, I had to look this up because I didn't even know about it, but Clifton Hill, it's in Ontario, apparently. And it's kind of like, if anyone's been to Lake George, it's very, there's haunted houses, a lot of attractions for kids, so we loved it. College prep, so it's more hockey specific. That's my senior year when we won states to go to nationals. So we were a national bound team. The thing about typical prep schools, now there's a lot of them. There's a lot of other options out there. More hockey academies, kind of like NSA, but NSA was really a winter sports academy. They have hockey only academies now, and lots of them, but very different from a traditional prep school because most of those are just high school teams and they play on a club team, a local club team as well. But my NSA was, that's the only team we needed to play for because we were playing 65 to 70 games, which was a lot at the time. It's still a lot for a kid. USA Hockey would say that's way too many, but per their athlete development model, but I loved it. We were traveling almost every weekend throughout North America. 3 to 5 practices and off-ice workouts per week. So I say 3 to 5 because sometimes we would leave on a Wednesday for the weekend, and that was pretty cool. But other times when we were home, we would stay and we'd practice all 5 days of the week. Our off-ice workouts were really intense. I remember our coach being really scary, but he got me ready for college, with Olympic weightlifting and all that. Probably not even what we needed to be doing, but I really found it helped me prepare for in overtime, for example, when you have to find another gear, maxing out on reps, for example, like it really mimics that. So there's a reason for it. But this was a great place for hockey because of the elite competition and exposure and the national bound status. So right now it's only Shattuck St. Mary's, which is another prep school in Minnesota but there's probably a lot more now. But at the time it was only like us and Shattuck who were hockey academy prep schools that were national bound, which is pretty cool. Academic support, really small class sizes. My graduating class was like 20-something students. So we got to know our teachers very well. My Spanish 4 class was me and one other student with the teacher. So we were not getting away with speaking English ever, which is good. Like, I loved it. I loved that. Personally, not for everyone, but we also had a structured nightly study hall every evening, and something that was huge for hockey in particular, because I know that I wanted that to be my path in college, was the academic support. And that really consisted of my college coach saying to everybody on my team, you will make a list of, like freshman, senior, no matter what your age was, you will make a list of the schools that you're interested, do your research, and then before the season even started, send out an email, tell them the schedule, and all of that. And I was doing that in 9th grade. So I got recruited to play Division I college hockey at Providence College, the Friars. The way that happened is I went to a camp, week-long summer camp at the University of Rhode Island at the time. It's since moved to a different location, but it's still going on. This camp annually. I met the assistant coach, the Providence coach there. She was my coach for the camp, at the camp the whole week. So we had one-on-one time on the ice and off the ice for her, not just to like see me as a player, but talk, to have conversation, and for her to get to know me as a person, which you really don't get that time with a college coach, and there are rules around that too. It can be done at a showcase or camp like this. But then upon meeting the head coach and having a conversation with him, I was really drawn to his passion for the game. Super energized guy, like tons of energy. And he was, telling me that I was going to get an opportunity to have a big role on the team my first year there. So that really won me over in addition to, the full athletic scholarship to help out my parents a little bit, since they did pay for high school. Providence College. It is frozen Fenway. I got to play 2 outdoor games in college, which was pretty cool. The first one was at UConn's football field. I'm blanking on the name. But this one was at Fenway, frozen Fenway. Very cool experience. That was my first time at Fenway. And I'm getting, like clubhouse access, and, it was a winter, so we could kind of explore a little bit. I'm like standing on top of the clubhouse in the stands. There's a picture of me and my teammates there. But just some things about Providence. I studied marketing, and that was familiar to me. My mom works in advertising, so I chose that route. And the hockey accolades, Dean's List. I generally did better academically in school during hockey season. There's just something about having no time to do anything that you get it done. Not great with downtime, or at least I wasn't. I'm a lot better now. But I had a really strong first couple seasons, really first season, being selected for all rookie team. That was a great honor. For Hockey East, that was a conference that we played in, and then some weekly and monthly honors as well. Growth of the game. All right, we're moving on. Becoming a coach. So I spent summers working at hockey camps. One of those was in Lake Placid. That's actually the Olympic speed skating oval here. The ice is taken out since the summer. But that was Canadian Hockey Enterprises, just for girls hockey camps. So we'd actually stay in the NSA dorms with the kids. I was a counselor. Stay in the dorms, live in the dorms with them. So this is summer. I'm going back to high school, which is pretty cool. And working that camp every year for 2 weeks. And after my first year of college, I actually lived in Lake Placid for a few months in the summer with some of my old teammates, and actually one who was a year younger than me and was actually moving on to Providence with me. So I had another teammate from high school too on my Providence team. Okay, so after I graduated from Providence, I really didn't think that I was going to keep playing hockey, and I wasn't for a couple years. I did get into coaching though right away. I think honestly my resume, it's the same month as when I graduated. May 2014, it's when I started with the Rhode Island Sting girls hockey club as a head coach. That was one of my teammates as well who coached with me, one of my teammates from Providence. And I had a lot of different roles. I was studying to get my MBA at Providence. Some of my teammates, older teammates who had graduated and moved on had done that. Actually, she did that. So just following in their footsteps, not really having a ton of work experience or knowing which way I want to go, because I really just saw myself as a hockey player. But I didn't get any internship experience, when I was in undergrad. So I did that during grad school for around 6 months. Worked as a marketing intern at Hale Communications in Providence, downtown Providence, which is a small advertising agency. And then I also worked as a sales associate at Pure Hockey Complex, just a hockey shop and lacrosse shop. It's a chain, though there's actually one in Kenilworth now. And my other role, this is pretty cool. I got all 6 years of my college paid for because I was a grad assistant when I was in grad school. So they paid for my college, which was nice. I was a grad assistant in the Writing Center, which I really, really enjoyed. I was tutoring students, graduate and undergraduate students, and athletes, and I really enjoy writing. I wanted to be a writing major, so it was pretty cool that I was able to do that. Since I wanted to be a writing minor, but I was able to do that since I didn't get the opportunity to take those writing courses that I wanted to, largely due to hockey. It was my choice, but. NWHL, so this is a league that I played in, National Women's Hockey League. It was the first professional women's hockey league, first league to pay players, founded in 2015 by Danny Ryland. She was her name at the time, but she's since gotten married. There are 4 original franchises. We have the Metropolitan Riveters. They're originally the New York Riveters, Connecticut Whale, Boston Pride, and Buffalo Beauts. And that league was mostly made up of former NCAA players. I'm just going to read this slide because I like it. I like the way it sounds. That's me standing in the starting lineup on the blue line during the national anthem. Joining a startup, because the NWHL really was a startup, with no established playbook. We were building the league, teams, and standards while competing, navigating constant change, limited resources, and uncertainty, with real ownership in growing the game. So it wasn't just playing, basically, it's a long-winded way of saying, it wasn't just playing that we were doing, we were really trying to get people to the games, do speaking engagements so that we could, spread the word about women's hockey, or that we existed, and that was really eventually natural to me, just being from New Jersey and playing for my hometown team. So I said we were the New York Riveters originally. The team in year 1 was in Brooklyn, and I had a couple teammates who played in season 1. I was still in grad school up in Providence. And I remember I was visiting them in Brooklyn for New Year's Eve that year, and they were like, "Moose, the Riveters are moving to Jersey. You have to play." I'm like, no, I don't. I coach, but it's not the same. It's not the same as training yourself and being on the ice. I wasn't really on the ice much, aside from coaching, and that's mostly gliding. It was mostly gliding, but I obviously decided to play eventually, and pretty cool. This is Madison Packer here, Amanda Kessel, some big names. They're both retired. Actually, all these people are retired now. But Olympian, she played at Wisconsin, won a national championship. 1, 2, 3 played at Wisconsin. They won a national championship. I don't know if she did. Also an Olympian. And then this is a New Jersey Colonials player. That's the club that I played for as a kid. So pretty cool to have honorary captains is what they're called, and they would just skate out to the blue line with us. My first season. versatility is a mindset. I signed on to the league. I actually didn't sign. I joined as a practice player. And that was maybe a symptom of like my hesitancy to go full force into it, because I was out of shape and I knew it was going to take a lot to get me back to where I was before. And also I didn't have a full-time job, so I'm like, let me focus on that first. And I actually joined the team, the Riveters, before I got a full-time job in marketing. But because I was a practice player, I learned really what that meant was you're filling in wherever needed. For games, there's no guarantee that you'll play in games. But if there's an injury or whatever, somebody's underperforming, you could be in the lineup. You could learn that. You could learn that at any moment. So I played a little bit of forward, a lot of forward actually in the beginning. But my natural position that I played for most of my career up until that point was defense. So that was really a challenge. So I had to be that, Swiss Army knife, and I never had that role. I was always, one of the top players on my team. So that was difficult at first, and I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. I was doing speaking engagements, doing interviews, and I'm like, these people think that I'm scoring the goals, I'm making this, I'm blocking the shots, and I'm making the big plays, but I really didn't always get those opportunities, and I wasn't one of the big name players. So I definitely felt a lot of imposter syndrome when speaking about the team, the league, and our success. But eventually, things weren't changing, so I realized that I did a lot of reframing. I realized that I had to do that in order to keep playing, and I knew that I wanted to keep playing. So that reframing really consisted of, number one, work as hard as I can in practice so that I'm pushing my teammates, so that I can tell, my coach has a reason to put me in, or my teammates believe in that at least. But if that's not going to happen, because I really started to lose faith with that happening, that I was going to get the playing time I wanted or felt I deserved, it's like, okay, I'm going to make my teammates as good as they can be, and impact that way. And I wasn't really that hardworking player in practice before, so that was new for me. But also, that consisted of, again, because I was one of few players from New Jersey, I think there were two or three others actually at the time, but have a lot of Jersey pride and big Devils fans, so I was able to kind of utilize my connections with the Devils, with the fan groups and everything, to pull people in and tell people about the Riveters. And also, these are coaching pictures. They're both at the Westfield rink, actually. Yeah. Media interviews and advocacy. I'll run through this one quick. I had the privilege of going on the NHL Network on their NHL Now show. It was an interview. Their studios are in Secaucus, and I was working in marketing for UBS Financial Services at the time up in Weehawken, which is not too far away. So it was kind of on my way home. I got to leave work early and stop in there and do an interview. It was really cool to be on a set like that. And then this far picture was for our Pride game being interviewed, I think either between periods or post-game. You could see the rainbow on the sleeve for the Pride jersey. I was often asked to do these things because even when I was, at this time, there were many players who weren't out of the closet, and I was at the time, and really finding how to be comfortable with that and talk about that. And playing professional hockey really helped me because I was just kind of thrust into it. But something that's pretty cool is the NWHL had the first trans player in professional women's hockey, and they were my teammate, Harrison Brown. He was also in Heated Rivalry. As an actor, he acts, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool that he's now pivoted into that. But he was definitely somebody that helped me be more comfortable in my skin because he was an advocate for the LGBTQ+ community. There's my Pride stick over there. They made them for me custom, which is pretty cool. Metropolitan Riveters. So as I mentioned, we were renamed. We moved to New Jersey in 2016. We played at RWJ Barnabas Health Hockey House at Prudential Center, which is the practice rink. It's in the same building. And along with that, we formed a landmark partnership with the New Jersey Devils in 2016, which was like a dream come true for me as a diehard Devils fan, to see their support for my team, the team I played on. And the rebrand was really to reflect a broader regional vision for the game. We weren't playing in New York anymore, but we still had a lot of fans in New York throughout, so we just stayed Metro. And we opened the 2017-18 season with a doubleheader with the Devils at Prudential Center, so on the main ice, which was another dream come true for me. And that's actually me walking out Prudential Center. 2018 Isabel Cup champions. Keep everyone awake by passing this around. Yeah. Like, don't take it out. So we won the Isabel Cup in 2018. As you can see here, that's me in the middle holding the cup up. I did not dress for that game. I was a healthy scratch. And if that didn't stink enough, it was just very nerve-wracking because we had a great start to the season. I'll go back. We had a great start to the season. We opened with an 11-game winning streak. That was a franchise record that we set. Finished 13-3-0. We only played 16 regular season games at that point, because most of us had full-time jobs and there was travel required. But in the championship game against the Buffalo Buttes, they were two-time defending champions, so that was already a challenge there. My teammate Alexa Grushow scored a highlight reel first period goal. She's like diving and the puck goes in, or she's falling and the puck goes in. But that was the only goal of the game. So when it's like way harder to watch up in the stands than it is to, even be on the bench or be on the ice. You don't have time to think about it. So really, really, really cool moment. And we did it at home too, at the Prudential Center. This was a really cool experience. Fortunately, I experienced it alone or with our staff, but we were asked, after we won the Isabel Cup, we were invited to be honored by the General Assembly down in Trenton at the state capitol. And I remember an email going out from our staff asking, who's available, who can do this during the workday. And I was like, me. I had to take a day off work for it, but it was well worth it. Nobody else came, and I couldn't believe it. So I got to give the speech. They had a speech like pre-written for me. I got to, it was actually on that plaque, which I kept. Nobody asked, and I'm the only one who went, but we brought the Isabel Cup there. You could see her. And that was pretty awesome, growing up in Jersey and getting to do that down in Trenton. Boycott. The NWHL, there was a boycott of the league, and this is kind of how the PWHL came into fruition. So around 200 players released a statement. It was all done through social media. I don't know if that's big enough for you to read, but that's actually what they posted. And this is like you're scrolling through social media, through Instagram, and you're seeing like all of your closest friends, people you've grown up with, like saying like, we're not gonna play in the NWHL. And I was pretty loyal to the league because I played in it. Like I was, I had so much support from the league. I felt there were ups and downs for sure, but the staff, I became friends with some of the staff, like writers, journalists who covered the league, people I still have relationships with, and I was, surprised to see it. I knew people were frustrated. There were a lot of challenges. Our pay got cut mid-season one year. I think that was actually my first year. We were paid late sometimes. There were travel issues where we would get stuck somewhere because we were flying commercial, right? And we had to get back to jobs. So that was really, really tough. It kind of just seemed like almost a chain reaction that a couple people posted it with, big, loud voices, like big name players. And I respect them for their thought, their feelings, and vocalizing that. I mean, some of the things the way they felt, like I wouldn't disagree with personally. But I decided not to post it. It kind of just felt like everyone was sort of following along and doing that without really thinking about it. And they didn't really have a plan in place. Like there were conversations about this. We gone on calls. Didn't really seem like there was a plan in place, so I didn't post this on my social media, and I decided to stay and play in the league. I won't get into the Canadian Women's Hockey League, but basically the NWHL kind of ended the Canadian Women's Hockey League when it came into existence. So it was like a series of this thing happening over and over again. But the loyalty paid off. I had more of a leadership role. I fell into more of a leadership role because players said I'm not playing in the league. That included alternate captain of the Riveters and Players Association representative in the NWHL. So both team and league roles, which is pretty cool. And then I was selected as an NWHL All-Star in 2020. So that was a game, and then the skills competition. I competed in hardest shot. That was one of my strengths, my slap shot, and I didn't win though, unfortunately. I tied for second place. Ringing the opening bell. This was pretty cool, and I was working for UBS when it happened, so I got to brag to all my coworkers that I did this. But many of us were invited. You can see December 23rd, 2019. This was a really, really memorable day for me, especially growing up in Jersey too, getting to do that in Times Square. And overall, like, great for the visibility of women's hockey. Bubble season. This season is definitely a memorable one because it's during COVID, and it's when Tara and I met as well, and we're teammates. Hale in Lake Placid, can you believe it? Of all places. So the way that worked is we trained at Montclair State Ice Arena from September to January. Then the bubble was in February. No, it was in January. Late January, a condensed 2-week season at Herb Brooks Arena, the 1980 rink, where I played in high school. Obviously, there were strict COVID protocols, testing, all of that, and we'll get training with doing off-ice workouts with a mask on. I think my face is as red as my shirt, but unfortunately, we were forced out of the bubble, and that was an interesting experience. The tests came in mid-game during our third game. So after the second period, there's like a knock on the door. They're pulling people out of the locker room. A handful of my teammates tested positive, and my coach too. So we had to finish the game without our head coach. And eventually, we were forced out of the bubble. Like, we couldn't even go back to the locker room at the end of that game. Staff members had to clean up our stuff. Which, if you're a hockey player, competitive athlete, a lot of us don't like people touching our equipment. So that was a little bit tough, but we left. We were kicked out eventually because we had too many positive tests. Abbreviated season, but Tara got her first win that season. No thanks to me. I had a terrible game that game. I was one of 2 players who didn't test positive for COVID because that kept happening, and I don't know how I didn't get it, but. Union Thunder, Union Sports Arena, there was overlap between the bubble. That was my job when we were in the bubble that season. So you see here, this is a poster that some of my players made for me. This is actually, I put it up in my hotel room. We couldn't leave our hotel rooms except to get meals and to go to the rink. So that was a challenge for sure, but I left this in my hotel room, put it up on the wall for some inspiration. You see some Devils players here, and these were all Thunder girls here, and a couple more up there. They all sent in their fat heads to be in the stands so that we had fans, which was awesome. It meant a lot to me. And I was a head coach that year for the team, for 3 teams, all 3 Thunder teams, girls teams. I somehow fell into the role of girls hockey director because it was COVID and they needed one, and marketing director was something that I did a role I did want because that was my main career in marketing. So after getting kicked out of the bubble, I got to finish a season, which was which was still pretty cool. Coming back and coaching. This is our 14 and under team. It was a very unconventional season, but we still got to have kind of a culmination at the end. There was a tournament one weekend, and we ended up winning for our district, or for our league. That's MAWA. And then that's just outside the rink with a few of our players, captains. Princeton Tiger Lilies, so we're getting more recent. Bear with me. More recent, Princeton Tiger Lilies. I was there from 2021 to 2025. It's actually the oldest girls hockey program in New Jersey. Founded the year I was born, 1992, but they've sent a lot of players on to the next level. Have had some really competitive teams and great players. But it's all the way from 8U to 19U girls hockey, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Didn't start that way when I joined. We were just Tier 2, but eventually Tier 1, made up of 150 plus players and families. Our two main rinks at the time were Pro Skate, Monmouth Junction, and Iceland in Hamilton. And then on the far side was the mission and core values, which as the hockey director, I developed with a lot of help from our staff, from our coaches. But something that I was really proud of, and really, if you paid attention a little bit, the respect, resilient, and relentless, our core values, are really concepts, ideas, values that have shaped me and been a part of my upbringing in hockey. So these are the roles that I had, wearing many hats. I don't need to go over all of them, but in addition to hockey director, I always coach 2 to 3 teams, usually 3, if not always 3. Skills and development instructor, running our skills sessions, and then I also had a role as assistant director of girls hockey for the organization that operated the Princeton Tiger Lilies. So that was more of a regional role throughout the Northeast to grow the sport. And then head coach for Black Bear Selects, that was our spring and summer tournament team, our tournament program. And then competition commission for AGHF. The AGHF is a girls hockey league. That was also a startup that I was instrumental in getting off the ground and attracting more teams to the league. Girls try hockey for free. As part of my role as assistant director of girls hockey for the Northeast region, I was running a bunch of these. I say we because Tara was there for a lot of them. Introducing something I'm really proud of is through that program, it was run at 4 rinks. You'll see them on the bottom: Igloo, Grundy, Pro Skate, and Jersey Shore. All in Jersey except for Grundy, that's in Bristol, PA. But through those 4 rinks in that spring and summer program, we introduced 300 new athletes to the sport of hockey, all girls. And really the key to that program is, there's one right here. And she's in the picture, actually. Yep. That program's all free equipment, free ice time, free coaching, and those are the biggest barriers to entry for hockey. So taking that away, really just, you can see how many girls want to play the sport. And that really built a pipeline for girls hockey at these rinks for larger programs and growing the programs. Moose hockey training, that's my own brand. My nickname is Moose. And part of my role in that last job was wearing many hats, was running my own girls' summer camps, spring clinics, private lessons, and that includes on ice, off ice, and video review as well. Keep it, you're in that photo too. Connecticut Whale, I spent my last season with the Connecticut Whale. I was with the Princeton Tiger Lilies, living in Union County. I did not relocate to Connecticut, and I was originally signed. It was pretty tough. I expected to be with the Riveters my whole career, but there wasn't an opportunity for me there any longer after the bubble. So I signed for 1 year as a top 4D with the Whale, and I was told that's would be my role. And again, I was still living in New Jersey, in Union County, and we practiced in Milford and played our games in Danbury. So I was doing that 3 times a week, about that commute. And also going down to Princeton. Support from players, this is my 14U team. front, these are shirt jerseys, Whale logo on the front, my name and number on the back, which was really cool. In the beginning of the season, the Whale, I was on the Whale at the time, played the Riveters at Menin Sports Arena in Morristown, so a bunch of the families came out to support, which really meant a lot to me. You were there too, Kiva. Retirement and transition. Yeah, it was a tough ending to my career. I mentioned I was brought on with the goal, not the goal, I was told I would be top 4D, and that kind of means you're going to get regular shifts, a lot of playing time. But that wasn't what ended up happening. And I had a pretty tough season, unfortunately. I was kind of pulled in many directions and really loving coaching and getting into it more. But I did test positive for COVID, so still during COVID times, right before playoffs. Very unfortunate. That meant I couldn't travel with the team to playoffs, which were in Tampa Bay. So also a vacation. And many of us stayed later and did have a vacation. But I didn't end up playing, unfortunately, due to COVID. And eventually I was healthy, but hadn't practiced. So not, we'll leave it at that. But really I use coaching as a form of healing, and after that final season in Connecticut, I really channeled my competitive drive into coaching, and that worked out nicely in that season in particular because we had one of the teams that I was coaching was just a really, really competitive team of driven athletes. We set a goal to make it to nationals. Everyone thought that was within our scope, and it definitely was. And some of those players, all those players, one is committed to play Division I hockey at the University of Delaware, which is pretty cool. So they actually are. There's a few of them at Lawrenceville too, playing hockey. So just great kids and great hockey players. And this is a photo from just one of our rooms at the rink where we would do video. You see in the projector in the back, and I think I'm drawing on a board and going over. We call them chalk talks in hockey. I'm going to skip through that. That same team, we did end up making it to nationals, which is awesome. They were in Irvine, California that year, so even better. And that's the front of the rink right there. And the far photo, that's I'm at the top there with one of our other coaches at a meal after one of the games. It was a great experience. And this takes us closer to now. Rediscovering myself very, very recently. I told you I worked for the Princeton Tiger Lilies until 2025. And I was really brought on to help bring the club back to Tier 1 status. They had a Tier 1 charter. They had lost it. So we accomplished that goal, which is awesome. And then I was really ready for a new challenge after that. Took some time away from the rink. I had years of coaching multiple teams. Burnout is real in hockey, that's for sure. I took some time to step back and really reset and recharge and really focus on, this is my love. This has been my number one love, my first love, my passion, since I was a child. I want to continue to do this. How do I do it sustainably? And last season I coached at the Pingree School, the associate head coach, their varsity girls ice hockey team, which is a great experience. I had a really strong connection with the school and with the student athletes. Really ended up liking the place, and that kind of brought me closer back to an academic setting. I made me realize that I wanted to be in an academic setting, an institution like that. And I felt like even though I was there for just one season, I made a meaningful impact in a short amount of time. And really that led to me kind of all happening in tandem, but pursuing new goals, and that goal's coaching at the college level, something I had considered before, but I wasn't ready for previously. But I was, and now I am there, which is pretty cool. And really during that time, I continued building experience towards that, having conversations with some of my friends who are college coaches, and watching a lot of hockey, a lot of hockey and college hockey in particular. And now I'm at Newman University. I just started May 18th, so very, very new, very fresh. Thank you. It's a new opportunity and next chapter. And we're located in Aston, Pennsylvania, a very small Franciscan school. We're NCAA Division III, and as I mentioned, MAC Conference, Middle Atlantic Conference.
Okay. I'm going to actually, because of the time, I'm going to allow one question right now, and then if people feel like they want to go,
That's
they
fair.
can, and people who want to stay and ask more questions can for a
Don't
little
feel
bit,
like you
because
have
the
to
library actually closes at some point. So I'm going to go over you to the lady in the back.
Hi, my name's Jules, and this is my teammate Maggie. And
Oh, I know you.
yeah. So
Hi.
we had the honor of you were our coach when we were younger at Union Thunder, and now we both play for the Westfield girls varsity ice hockey team at the high school. And on behalf of the whole program, we wanted to present you with this game jersey to thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you so much. This means a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, let's take a picture.
Yeah.
No, I want to put it. I'm gonna take it out for everyone. I'm gonna take it out. I almost put it on the ground, and then I realized that's my biggest pet peeve as a coach is jerseys can't touch the ground. But it was in the bag, so I forgot for a second. Awesome. What a surprise.
So,
So nice.
so Rebecca, I knew that, so I had to allow one question. So, who
Make
else
the
wants
setting.
to ask a question?
I'd like to know at Newman College, now that you're a college coach, do you have an idea of what kind of system you'd like to put in? Or do you have to evaluate the talent that you have there first?
Yeah. I understand we have to get into better shape first. That's the biggest thing. Yeah, I watched a lot of film, a lot more to watch, that's for sure. But as far as systems, anybody who's been coached by me, they'll tell you I really try to reinforce habits first and foremost, because then you can really implement any system, and it can be executed well. So we'll do a lot of conditioning, and we'll do a lot of habits. Stick positioning. I'm really big on teaching, and blocking shots. We're going to be a team that blocks shots, lots of shots. Defense first.
Are you going to find any sand hills for your players to run on?
I've thought about it, but I'm going to have to figure out where there is one. I don't know yet, in Aston, Pennsylvania. If you know of any, let me know.
Other questions? No? Okay.
If you had to pick one highlight in your career, what would that be?
Probably one of the goals I scored. I almost included it. I'm glad I didn't, so it was long enough. But no, I can't say that. It's meeting my wife. Hockey has given me my family. So.
He had his hand up first. At least I saw his hand up first.
Did you go to Westfield High School or at all, or you went 4 years to NSA?
4 years at NSA.
Okay. Talk about how what made you really jump to there as far as or staying local in Westfield, where you wanted to play for Westfield High School. What was the drive to go to NSA? Because it was mostly hockey focused.
Yeah, I largely made my decision based on hockey. It's not a secret. I mean, I hesitate to say that as a coach now, but it was right for like everybody's different, and it was what I wanted to do and right for me, and I had the resources and support that I needed, and I was just grateful for it. But I really think what was probably the most telling was just the time that the head coach spent with us. It was basically a glimpse into like the way every teacher, every staff member at the school operated. And those people at the end of the day, like I was 14, so you know, my parents had to know that they could trust these people and that they're gonna do right by me, and that like they were gonna be a parent at the end of the day sometimes when needed, because they weren't always there, and I was 5 hours away. I mean, my parents came and watched me play a lot and visited a lot, like separate from hockey, but it was really the people that brought me there. And kept me there too, because even after year one, you don't know. Like I explored other options, and my coach ended up leaving after year one, actually. So that's kind of why I explored other options. You know, I stuck it out, but there was it was chaos a little bit for my sophomore year. So I was looking at other options, but I ended up staying, and my coach ended up coming back, which is probably really why I stayed.
Does Westfield have a
But that just shows you like how much he loved us, right? And like wanted to be there. He was apart from his family for a while, and that's why he left. But then he was apart from his other family, and he came back, so.
I competed in college in track and cross country, NCAA, Allegheny College Division III. And I was just curious, you know, I was at a high level on the team in cross country and track, in distance, middle distance. And, you know, there's always that thrill you get when you're in the middle, the center of attention, in the middle of a track, and everyone's watching you around the track as you're competing. Of course, you've got to focus on what you have to do. I'm curious if you get the same sort of thrill like when you're coaching as you do if you're in the center and playing in the, you know, yourself in the rink. You see the difference?
Yes,
There's
yes.
a big difference.
Nothing can replicate playing.
Yeah.
But I did not think that coaching was going to do it for me. And, you know, it is energizing. It's super rewarding in a way that, like, playing hockey couldn't be or wasn't, right? But, like, there's nothing like playing and doing it yourself. But, like, I do get, like, when things like ask her after a loss, I'm terrible to be around, which I'm working on that, but like that was also the case when I was playing, you know, and I get like just as excited, probably honestly more excited than when I was a player, because like as a hockey player, you're taught to be like humble, and you know, I'm more of an introvert, so I still don't really like being the center of attention. But if you score the big goal, you are, and that feels good, right? But like as a coach, you can kind of just stand back, and it's the player's game at the end of the day. And then when the puck drops, it's like if you're doing your job, like you could be removed, and they still know what to do and are executing it. So I think there's something to be said about that, and about mentoring the next generation, which I've really found a passion for.
Any other questions? I can take one more, because I think we're all going to get kicked out of the library momentarily.
Sorry, guys.
When you were playing professional, how many penalty minutes did you average a season?
I don't know, but every team I played for, I was always like, on the Riveters, it was Madison Packer who was first, but I was usually like up there, like first or second. I don't know how many penalty minutes, but I would get a lot of penalties. My game was definitely more physical, and you know, protect my goalie at all costs, and that was instilled in me at a young age. You know, growing up with Marty Berger as a role model, and like the way that he was protected by his team. You know, Scott Stevens, Ken Danico, all the greats. My brother was originally a goalie, and my wife is a goalie, so I've kind of had that like protective part of like, you know, looking out for others on the ice. But lots of penalty minutes come with that.
Thank you all, and please, you all, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please take take your flyer home with you, put it on your refrigerator. Because in October, we have Dr. Ganesan. He works at the genetic area at NYU Langone Cancer Center, head of that. And then in November, we have Carolyn Tell. So take your flyer, because the months will pass. Love to see you.
That was awesome.